Bronze. Uh, yeah, buying it online, it's expensive. Doesn't need to be. Bronze is simply copper with an alloy, and the alloy is up to you. You can make bronze with tin. I call it arc bronze. Or you can make it with aluminum. These are the most common configurations. Aluminum being makes sense to most of us because you can find aluminum anywhere. Copper, you got old motors laying around. Stop by your junkyard or your recycling center, pick up some old motors. They buy them for the copper, so they're not going to be willing to give them to you for nothing. So you just scrounge up old motors, old copper tubing, old wire. You really don't need to go rip it out of somebody's vacant house. This is beyond criminal. I can't even imagine what it costs to repair that kind of damage. Anyway, copper and tin, copper and aluminum. Percentage wise, ideally you're looking at somewhere between 10 and 15% aluminum or tin added to your copper. The tin, you have to buy tin. You're not going to find it laying on the street. When I was a kid, tin was everywhere. Nowadays, you have to buy it if you want tin. I have tin in my storage boxes over there because I do a lot of bronze here. I do more bronze than I do steel or aluminum. Thunder. It wasn't supposed to rain today, yet again. But anyway, the aluminum bronze is fine. Now, here's something you'll notice immediately about aluminum bronze. Okay? This is real bronze. It's made with tin. This is, I got those right? Yes. The one on the right, one on my right, your left, is aluminum bronze. You'll notice that it's not as shiny and it doesn't have that gold to it. This particular ingot has about 2.5% lead added to it because it's for bushings. And adding lead to the equation, if you will, or the alloy, if you will, makes it so it acts as a lubricant on that bushing. So when the bushing has an axle riding on it, it actually performs its own lubrication. You add a little grease to that, and it'll last a long time. As for making bronze, somewhere between 10 and 15% tin added to melted copper. And melting the copper is the problem. If you don't have some sort of melting furnace, you need to make one. You don't need to go buy one. You can, they cost money. What I have sitting right here, and wow, I don't really want to hold this lid open very long because I've been using this and it's kind of warm. See that little darling right there? That's a 20-pound cylinder with a number 3 crucible in it and a 6-inch stove burner. Wow. that baby is how we made this slug right here. This slug, what this is, I made this way more aluminum than normal. What I have in here is 6 ounces. When I made the crucible, what I put in was 6 ounces of brass and right at 4 ounces of aluminum. So round numbers, we're looking here. It's about 20% aluminum, and quite frankly, I wish I'd have gone more. What I'm looking for is a tapping hammer for centering my work stock in my chuck jaws. So I need a little tapping hammer. And I could buy one online, 15, 20 bucks. Not make my own, because I'm not doing anything else. What the hell? What I did here is put it in that crucible, plug it into the 220 circuit, set my timer there, and wait an hour. That's a 6-inch stovetop burner, costs 11 bucks at Walmart.com. A guy could build one of these out of a used propane cylinder and plaster of Paris. Now mine is lined with ceramic matting and has that crap, high temperature concrete in the floor of it. I have two other furnaces. I have large furnaces. One has an 8-inch electric burner in it. That burner costs $40. These electric furnaces of mine will hit 1800, 1850 degrees. That's max on them. Melting straight copper, they struggle with it. It's too much for them. It'll do it. You just have to give it time. The gas furnace out there, on the other hand, if I have to, I can melt steel. When I built that so if I want to, I could hook that burner to acetylene. And I have an acetylene bottle right there. In this little hobby shop of mine is a 220 volt 180 Hobart handler that will run stainless, aluminum, or steel. Underneath it is a V-bore machine, as the lathe is a V-bore. I like these guys. Reasonably priced equipment, which, quite frankly, I'm rather astounded at what I'm getting for my money. I'm pretty happy with that little lathe, even though everything I read said, oh, these are like entry-level piece of junk. Well, out of the box, I had to do some cleanup and I had to do some adjusting, and it doesn't come with some of the niceties of a more expensive lathe. It didn't come with a live chuck. It didn't come with a drill chuck. It came with a dead center on it. But I have a lathe sitting right there, and I have a live center. I have a chuck. I have a whole bunch of stuff already that'll fit this lathe and work fine in it. I did go ahead and order myself a quick connect chuck for it, and order some other tools for it. But that's not what we're here for. If you want to turn bronze in your lathe, you can buy it online, but it's expensive. On the other hand, if you can scrounge up some copper, and God help you, search the planet and find some aluminum, because God knows where you'll get that. It's laying on the ground everywhere you look. Then build yourself a little furnace. The element for that furnace is $11, Walmart.com. Plaster Paris, you buy a 50-pound bag of plaster Paris for about $10, $12, and put a plastic bucket in there and just cast the interior. The problem with the plastic interiors is it's not going to last very long. It will start to degrade and chip out and fall apart on you. So you're better off to go ahead and spend the money, buy yourself some ceramic wool, and build a real furnace. That way you don't have to keep decking with it. I've been using that furnace in its current configuration now for 2.5 years. I have replaced the element maybe 4 times. I do it so it can do it without too much trouble. Just use a long screwdriver, release the little tangs from the other tangs, and I'm back in business. Not a big deal. They do burn out occasionally, particularly if the crucible sticks to them, and homemade crucibles have a propensity to do that. But there's whole channels all over the place on making these little electric furnaces. I may do one here shortly, but for the time being, we're more concerned with making bronze. Bronze, somewhere between 10 and 15% of alloy. Tin, expensive, you have to buy it. You're not going to find it laying on the ground. And you want pure tin, because you don't want to start adding stuff you don't know what's in the material you're making. You get yourself in trouble that way. The regular old copper, you find that pretty much anywhere too. Once you've rounded up copper and tin, you build yourself a little furnace. A crucible at Walmart.com. Number 3 is what I use. It's a generic size. It's big enough for almost anything I'm going to do. There are larger ones. There are smaller ones. The smaller ones tend to be toys. What I did was put the copper and the brass which was already made from copper, and some aluminum in the crucible. Turn my timer on an hour, plug son of a gun in, let it heat up. Get my channel locks out. What I did was take this piece of thin wall tube stock, tack it to a piece of plate. Take this tube stock, tack it to a piece of plate. You'll notice the tacks here. I tack it to the damn bench because you don't want it tipping over once I start pouring molten metal into it. And you still could tack it to the plate and just put it in a vise if you want. This particular piece is a little, about an inch on the ID, I think. I don't remember. I just was looking for something just a little bit bigger. Yeah, this is a 1-inch ID here. And what I did was pour a slug. Okay. Once I poured, I'd walk over here and unplug this furnace because, wow, it makes it hot in here. And I'm sacrificing myself turning off my air conditioner to do this for you guys. Anyway, once that cools, I simply take a socket, slide it inside there, and knock the slug out with a hand. And you have to take your little 4-inch grinder, cut the tacks, and get it off of there. I didn't tack it very good because I really didn't care. So I had a little bit of leakage, a little bit more than I intended. But not a big deal. We'll just throw that back in the crucible next time we make something like this. This is not my normal mixture. This is technically bronze. Because what I have here is copper and brass that's made into brass, and then I've added aluminum to it, which then turns that brass into bronze. You'll notice it has a very dull color and looks more like aluminum than brass or bronze. But I can tell you that this little slug right here weighs 6.5 ounces, which is about 3 or 4 times what it would weigh if it were aluminum. I wanted some weight, but I really didn't want a 20-pound hammer. I want something to tap the work in the chuck to get it lined up right. And what I intend to do is chuck this and turn it down. I'm going to remove a bunch of material below the flat head and below the round head before I put the handle on. I'm going to take her down to a 1/2 inch ID on the inside of that, and I'm probably going to take 3/4 of an inch off of either end. That should drop this down to about 4 ounces. This is the tube I knocked it out of. Conduit will work fine. Problem with conduit is Lowe's and Home Depot sell it in 10-foot sticks. And I think they max at 1 inch. I'm not sure if they have bigger than that. And you might want some 1.5 or 1 1/4. Watch for an electrician in his truck. He'll have scrap conduit. And quite frankly, they're just going to throw most of it away. And you can pour this piece. I poured this particular piece 4 inches long. This could just as easily have been 12 inches long or 16. I don't think I'd go much longer than that. For the simple reason I want to be able to reach up there and dump it in without exposing myself to physical harm from molten metal. I do have a leather apron. I have a full set of leathers that I'm not putting on in this heat. They cover me from my neck all the way down. My face mask covers the rest. So I'm not invulnerable, but not as vulnerable. A pair of welding gloves is essential equipment. A face mask is essential equipment. Glasses are not enough. You really don't want to splash molten metal and have it hit you cheap. But the idea is to have reasonable amount of care when you pour that molten metal, and you're not going to have a problem. But bear in mind, that metal's at 16 to 1800 degrees when you're pouring it. So you really don't want it on you. And bearing that in mind, a guy can make his own bronze. He can make round slugs to put in his lathe and feed your lathe, and you can do it. Once you build the furnace, you can do it for free. The crucibles at Walmart.com, they sell a number 3 crucible for $15. The element for that 6-inch furnace was $11. Now the ceramic belt I bought, that stuff's a little spendy. You spend to do one of these little 20-pounders, a 24 by 36-inch piece would do it, and I think that's about $25–30. The concrete for the floor of your furnace is not essential. I like it because it eliminates that problem for me. I have a nice solid bottom on this, which gives me a place for my element to rest. I took a fire brick, which I buy at Tractor Supply for $3.50, just regular fire brick. There are two kind out there. One fire brick is not insulating. It's a high temperature fire brick. These things will tolerate 3,000 degrees. I use those in my forge to rest my work on. But the regular fire bricks add insulation to the floor of your forge. So you can literally just take some perlite, mix it with mortar, and use that for the floor of your forge, then put a fire brick on top of it. That's adequate. That will protect the floor of your furnace enough that with the fire brick you'll be in good shape. When I put my fire brick in, what I did was take some of my scrap ceramic fabric and cut out the fire brick and drop that around it. Just a little extra protection. If you want to make it last forever, go to Lowe's in the winter time and they have stove cement. Comes in a white bucket. It's like 13, 14 bucks for a bucket of it. Take that, put it in a bowl, mix in some warm water and stir it till it's a gray liquid. Paint it on the ceramic fabric. And then prop the lid open a little bit so the heat can get out. You're going to want to do that with steel. Don't use a piece of wood. Put a piece of steel rod across there so that the top and the bottom, top needs to be insulated as well. You're going to want to paint it as well when you do that. So when you do that, prop it open with a piece of steel, piece of angle iron, something, hold the lid open, plug it in, let it run for an hour or so, let it build enough heat to set that stove cement. The stove cement will act as a stiffener for your ceramic fabric, and you don't have to pay $50 a quart for it. It does the same thing. What's in that bucket is known as water glass. This stuff will tolerate 2,500, 3,000 degrees without any problem whatsoever. Water glass is a very effective chemical to use around high temp. I digress. We're making bronze. Bronze can be made at home. Once you get it cast, stick a socket in there, whack it with your ball peen, it'll come out the bottom. I've been doing that for years. I've never had any problem knocking it out. If you do get one stuck, and I've had that happen when I get bronze too hot, slice it with your friggin' grinder and spread it. It'll pop right out of there. Anyway, that's what I want to tell you guys. I was watching Blondie Hacks about the little lathe machines, and she mentioned that bronze was expensive, and not really. I probably got 40 pounds of it sitting around here that I've made for various purposes, and I have it in various alloys. I started out with a shitload of copper because we used to get these old 50s trailers in here with copper water plumbing. We'd jerk all the plumbing out of them and replumb them with activity. That's like job one. Everybody wants them replumbed because the plumbing that has 400 patches on it leaks everywhere. That copper's frozen a dozen times. Oh well. What I know is when I closed my business, I found myself with about 300 pounds of it. Ergo bronze. Anyway, hope this information helps a little bit. And if you get to thinking about building one of those little furnaces, just punch in electric melting furnace. It's going to come up. There's a whole bunch of guys making these out there to show you how to make it. There's also the option of going online and buying a melting furnace. Vevor sells them for like $110, I think, for the little one. They don't cost very much. Make sure you get one big enough to hold a number 3 crucible. Because if you want to pour a piece of 1.5 inch stock 6 inches long, you're not going to do that with one of them little toy crucibles. Just a little FYI. You guys have a good one.